Hello, I'm Gary Rhodes from Brigham Young University Marriott School of Management. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Lecture Series. Today we're pleased to welcome John Wade and Eric Farr of Brainstorm Inc., the leading industry provider of online and on-site software training for desktop applications. To support these training services, Brainstorm also provides software quick reference cards and other software training materials for virtually any application that hits the desktop. With their unique distinctions and endorsements from Microsoft, Novell, and Corel, Brainstorm is a company of choice for enterprise-level software training initiatives. Both John and Eric earned their bachelor's degree from BYU and their MBA degrees from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. The Rollins Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology welcomes John Wade and Eric Farr to the Entrepreneur Lecture Series. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Well, you know, the first question is we'd like to learn more about you. You know, we do these series because we want to understand an alumni and our students want to understand how to be successful entrepreneurs. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to pick your brains and find out a few great lessons and secrets from you.
Great. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Well, I think the question that I'm dying to ask is, you know, it's unusual for Wharton MBAs to come out of the school and go right into entrepreneurship, because we know our MBAs, they go to Fortune 100 companies. But you elected just to go right out into entrepreneurship activities. Is that right?
You know, I did. Actually, John has a little bit of a different path. But,
okay.
I was a little more chicken. So went corporate for a couple years first.
Okay.
Yes.
It is true. John and I met in business school, and we had some entrepreneurial classes together. I studied entrepreneurialism as an emphasis. Wharton's actually has a great, you know, entrepreneurship program. So I studied that. I had been an entrepreneur before, and I knew certainly that you know, my long-term goal was to be an entrepreneur. And so coming out of Wharton, that's what I did. And like I said,
never
John's
thought
got a little
about doing a Fortune 100 company, just right out.
You know, I had the experience of being an intern at a very large company.
You've got like 10 weeks under your belt.
Yeah, I've got about 10 weeks under my belt of being employed. Otherwise, I've been on my own. And those 10 weeks were great weeks for me. One of the things that it taught me is I want to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so I was happy to stay as an entrepreneur, and that's what I did. I came out of school, and it was a different path. You know, there weren't too many that did that.
Okay, and Eric, and also I know that your dad is an entrepreneur, one of the founders in the Entrepreneurship Center here at BYU, and a successful entrepreneur. So what's that like, growing up with a father who's an entrepreneur? And did that have any impact?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, my father is a successful entrepreneur, and always taught me, be an owner, not a loaner. Own my time, don't loan my time. And that has rung true, you know, throughout my life. I remember the first time I was employed, I worked at a little fast food joint, and I stayed there about 3 months, and I just realized I could do something better and probably make a lot more money if I was doing it on my own. And so I did. You know, I turned my $3 an hour job into something that was actually quite a bit more successful just by doing it on my own.
Okay, and John, your background, so you came out of the program and actually worked for a Fortune 500 company for a while? Or?
I was in management consulting, so I did go a little bit more traditional route for my first 2 years out of school. I was in banking prior to business school, and then went to business school and went into consulting. I was based out of an office in Texas. But I also studied entrepreneurism in school, and most of my story of even getting into business school and the essays that I completed in the application process involved or revolved around entrepreneurship, and that's always been a long-term goal of mine as well.
Okay. So how did you two get together?
Well, I was going to say, you know, one of the things that I think makes our business partnership so solid is this diverse background, frankly. You know, John brings a lot more analytical mind and a lot more, you know, kind of some of that big business experience to our partnership, where I'm a little bit more probably shoot from the hip and a little bit more entrepreneurial in my approach, kind of more of a gut.
Okay. Well, tell us about Brainstorm. I mean, I kind of gave an overview, but I think people want to know specifically what you do, because it's kind of a unique service that you provide.
Sure. It's so we are a software training company. We think we're quite different from many software training companies in that we're focusing on a particular niche. So most software training companies focus on training IT professionals. Mm-hmm. So individuals that are managing networks and servers, et cetera. Whereas we focus on everyone else, on the regular user. In our industry, they call it an end user or an information worker. So we're training people on Outlook and Word and GroupWise and WordPerfect and a couple dozen different applications. And we have products that we've created that are job aids and learning aids, as well as services. So our trainers travel the world and
well, throughout the whole world,
it's
not just the
United
United States.
Yes. It's the majority of the business is definitely North America, but we've trained on, I think we say all continents, but Antarctica. Yeah.
So do you get to travel a lot?
Do we?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, we do,
yeah.
and we have a few travel experiences, entrepreneurial travel experiences, which are very different than your typical corporate travel experience. But our trainers are on the road weekly, and they travel a lot.
Well, I know you hire a lot of our students.
We do.
We do.
That's great.
We do.
And we sure appreciate that. So, kind of as you got started. Now, as I remember, you came and purchased a company. Tell us a little about that, because if I remember, the company wasn't doing well, so you just didn't pick a company that was doing quite well. You actually went in and did some kind of a turnaround. Is that right?
Correct.
So tell us about that.
So I mentioned that John and I met at business school. We were quick friends and remained friends throughout this time when John was doing consulting and I was doing some other things. We actually kind of started working on a business plan and looked at trying to do some other other ventures. When this particular company came up, and we knew some of the original founders, some of the angel investors, and it was a turnaround. It wasn't doing well. It was close to insolvent, and it was our opportunity to go in and acquire the company.
Well, I mean, that's unusual. You're looking for opportunities, and so you find an organization that's not doing very well, and that's who you choose.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So tell us about that.
Well, there's a few upsides to those.
Okay.
One actually, our backgrounds, we've had some turnaround experience prior to that. So that was those were even types of companies we were looking for. Ones where if you're in a turnaround situation, there's a number of reasons why the company cannot be doing well.
Okay.
Some of those reasons we probably have the skill sets to fix, and other reasons we don't.
We'd like to hear about those. I mean,
so we were looking for an opportunity where we thought we could come in and we would have an idea as to what changes we might be able to make and hopefully turn the company around.
Okay.
So
the advantage to Brainstorm was that nothing had really gone external. So
Okay.
most of the problems were internal. The customer base was not completely aware of what was going on.
You're very satisfied.
Our partners were
okay,
quite
so that's
satisfied.
one of the things you looked at: satisfied customer base, but inefficiencies inside.
Exactly, and those
Okay.
were the things that we felt really comfortable that we could change and change quickly. And we did. We dropped about 70% of the cost within the first couple months.
And we more than doubled our revenue in the first year.
And became profitable pretty right out of the gate.
Okay.
But they're hard decisions, and you had to make the hard decisions to be able to get there.
And some of those hard decisions were?
Oh, gee. Well, anytime you cut costs, that's hard.
Right.
Sometimes that involves people. Those are the hardest costs to cut.
Yeah.
Other costs, we moved from a Class A type office space and went into a basement type office space. I mean, we cut a lot of costs. Basement type, yes.
So
frankly,
basement-like, view windows, dark.
It's just like a basement.
yeah, it was a basement.
Yeah.
And of a home. So it was
Low cost.
no cost. How's that?
cost,
No
yeah, that's
cost.
what I wanted.
We found some place for free.
So we stripped that thing of all its costs, and we were able to turn it.
We bootstrapped this, and we still are bootstrapping it. So we just kind of had. It really was not much different, I don't think, from a startup mode or mentality, where every dime's precious, and you want to spend it on things that are going to get you a return, and rent doesn't bring in revenue, so that was one of the costs.
When you look at successful patterns of companies that succeed, especially startups, they put their money where they get results. And things like furniture and buildings don't really matter because your customers don't see them anyway.
Right. We have opportunity. Both John and I mentor, a lot of students, a lot of student entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I'm, pretty specific about is you have an idea forget about all of these things that you think you need: office,
Right.
furniture,
Maybe bank accounts.
I mean, all that.
What type of entity are we
Yeah.
going to be? Where do I find an attorney?
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of those are, to me, very secondary to, can I sell this product or this service?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to go out there and figure that out before you invest all this time and all this resource into some of these other things. And certainly the money. You don't want to spend, in fact, if you were to come to our office today,
Yeah.
I mean, we're a lot better than in a basement, and our furniture is a lot nicer than that. But it's not, we don't have customers that come in, and so we don't need that.
Yeah.
And so we try to keep costs down.
Yeah, I've
those areas.
visited your offices before. You got boxes laying there and everything.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
You're not trying to impress me, you know. But I mean, I think it reinforces, because you see a lot of students and they'll get angel investors or whatever, or friends and family, and immediately it's a nice office.
Yeah.
And nice furniture. And to me, that's an indicator of things might not be going very well in the future.
It doesn't build the business.
Yeah, it doesn't
nice
build the
furniture
business.
does not build the business.
Okay.
But spending money on good marketing, on the the product, on these things that build the business, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. It's interesting. Many of the entrepreneurs that we get here on this program, they've harvested companies and they're looking back. But you're right in the trenches, both of you, right now.
We're still looking
are.
forward.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right. We haven't had a harvest yet of this company, and certainly, that's probably the goal of most entrepreneurs, and we look forward to that. But we're not there. It's a company that's growing and doing well, and we haven't felt like we're to where it needs to be.
So kind of if we looked at lessons learned, I mean, coming out of a program, an MBA program, world-class program, and then going into looking and turning around an organization, and one, you've given us some ideas of minimizing cost in all cases, and basements and that. What are some of the things you've learned that took you a number of years to learn as you're evolving this organization? And both of you, John.
I think there's a number of things, and we definitely apply a lot of the education that we've received and prior business experience, but I don't know that those maybe hard skills are any more valuable or more critical than some of the philosophies I think that we try to incorporate into our business. So there's a concept of that we try to use of just focus on what matters most, for example. And there's a lot of things you can do in your business that are really ancillary. They might seem important. They might, you might think that it's going to add value or create opportunities, but it's not really at the core of what your business is, and it doesn't really improve that. There's lots of examples. We're not the only ones that think this. There's lots of examples of this where one that I know Eric's had some specific experience with, and I'm aware of as well, is when Mitt Romney took over the Olympics and here in Salt Lake City in 2000 for the 2002 Olympics, there was a little bit of a turnaround that he had to do with that situation. And I know that he decided with the management team that was running the Olympics that, look, the Olympics are about a premier athletic event. That's what it's about. And once you start kind of setting that target and setting that goal, a lot of the other decisions kind of fall into place. And the whole team, maybe hundreds of them or thousands of people can kind of get in line with that mantra. So really focusing on what it is that you do well. In our business, I know we focus a lot on quality. We don't advertise a money-back guarantee, but that's how we operate. We definitely want our customers to feel like that was just a fantastic transaction and they can't wait to come back with us. In our business, I think probably in most, but in our businesses that's very critical. We have a lot of repeat customers. Okay. And so that's an example of, I don't know that I learned that in a class per se, but maybe somewhere. But let's not get distracted with too many things and make sure we're doing what really pays the bills and what customers are buying. Make sure we're doing those things very well.
Does that get pushed down to all your employees too? I mean, is that something that resonates with all of them if we asked any of your employees?
It does. I do think. I think we as those trying to lead the organization probably do have better months than worse months. But no, I think in general that's part of our culture now. It's part of the culture that we've built.
Good. Other lessons?
Well, John brought up an interesting one, talking about the customer. And one of the things that we've learned and believe in is how are we interfacing with the customer? We know a few things. One, it's a lot more expensive to get a new customer than to retain a current customer. And when we looked at acquiring Brainstorm, again, we went back to the customer. What does the customer landscape look like? Are they okay with Brainstorm, or has the company burned them in some way? We felt pretty comfortable that the customer was okay, and so we went in and took that to a new level. And for us, customer service is critical. We want to make sure our customers are pleased. In the event that they are unpleased, we actually take that as a challenge to ensure that they go from an unpleased customer to a customer for life. Let me give you just one example.
Okay.
We had a shipment that we had shipped out to Scotland on a Thursday, I believe. We had it shipped to arrive on Tuesday. Well, on Friday, we received a call, and the customer said, that needs to be here Monday. And there was a miscommunication between the salesperson and the client. And they made it clear that in no uncertain terms, that should be there on Monday. Well, if you try to overnight something to Scotland on a Friday to get there Monday morning,
right,
you're not successful at it. So I had the opportunity to actually pack a suitcase, board a plane, and a lot of planes, actually, by that time. I think
about 5.
About 5 from here to there to there to there. And I finally ended up in Scotland on a Sunday evening. I handed the package over. I spent a beautiful 2 hours in Scotland, and I got back on the plane. Now,
so when FedEx can't do it.
When FedEx can't do it, I
Eric
can. And that turned that customer. They could not believe that one of the principals of the company was on their doorstep, had flown this stuff over. That customer is one of our best customers, and we were able to turn a negative experience into an incredibly positive.
And also to get more sales from a current customer, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we try to consider, instead of just the current transaction, did we lose money on that transaction? Yeah, probably did. But did we gain money on the lifetime value of that customer? Absolutely.
So again, it's kind of leveraging your smallness, doing things that larger corporations can't do. Move on a dime, be flexible, adapt in ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of a similar pattern we see with startup companies that succeed. Great. But I guess other things that you've kind of learned.
Other lessons learned. We try to, you have to be passionate about your business, about your product, or your service, whatever it is.
We couldn't tell that from you guys today.
Yeah,
So.
you have to be passionate, and that gets bred into the culture as well of your company, and that kind of comes from, in an organization, that comes from the top. It comes from those that are kind of leading the charge and representing the company. And then you don't have to carry the banner the whole time yourself. Right. It eventually spreads. Down. It absolutely does. You need it to.
Passion is contagious, frankly. And so it,
So you flying over to Scotland set a good example.
Well, it sets the example, but it also allows people to see, we do stand behind what we do, and we are excited about it, and our customers are excited about us, and we are the best out here. We use the term missionary zeal about how we want to be passionate about our business. We want to have that passion, the same passion, that missionary zeal.
People want to work in that type of environment, and customers want to do business, with those types of companies as well. If you don't have the passion in what you're doing, then you're probably not too excited to go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
And you definitely want to enjoy it.
And you don't want to start up a company if you don't have it.
No, it's required.
Well, if you're not passionate, I guarantee you no one else in the organization is going to be passionate. The entrepreneur's got to be the most passionate.
Yeah.
And we feel pretty passionate about what we do, and the fact that we want to be the best at what we do.
Yeah.
We're pretty passionate about that.
Well, I know when I get the calls, I want the best student. I can sense that passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Another thing, Gary, that I think is important, as a startup or as a turnaround like we've had, there's not a lot of cash in the system, right? So you've got to do with the resources that you have. And one thing that John and I have really tried to focus on is a network of people and friends. People do business with friends. people they like, people they trust. That's how business gets done. And so we try to foster that network in a, in a pretty special way. We've got lots of experiences where we've been able to tap into someone that was, maybe a classmate at Wharton, who works at, for example, Microsoft, and able to tap into that one individual and say, hey, we're looking for this kind of help. Can you help us? And it's amazing what can happen. So, getting those networks and keeping in touch with the network and adding value to the network is critical. Can't be one way. That's one thing that's important with the network.
People always say to me, because I'm a marketing faculty, they'll say, well, I just need help in marketing. And for startups, it's really help in networking. I mean, marketing is networking and relationships, and that's really what it's all about.
Well, I think our first year when our marketing budget must have been zero.
Pretty close.
If not, it was close to zero. We grew immensely. We've continued to have very, very high growth rates, and our marketing budget is not zero, but it's not substantial. A lot of that comes just from the networks and from leveraging other partnerships. What Novell and Microsoft and Corel are willing to do for our organization, right, and hopefully what we're willing to do for them is really quite remarkable. And those are just just trying to work with good people, work together to solve business problems. Right. And it doesn't always come with a big checkbook. Matter of fact, that's not what enticed, or that's not what opened the door for opportunities. If we came to those partners with big checkbooks, they wouldn't turn it away. I'm sure who would, but that's not what actually created the opportunity. It was the network and the partnership.
Yeah, a great point to emphasize for those that are listening on starting up your company. It's not the money you spend in billboards or advertising or print. It's the money you spend in relationships and networking. Yeah,
and just to kind of put an exclamation point on that, it must be sincere. It's hard to network if you're not sincerely interested in their best interest. Right. And when we go into a discussion, we want it to be win-win, and we work very hard to get it there so that there's value both ways. If there's not value both ways, there's not much of a relationship, and so that's important.
Well, so now we vacation with some of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the benefit. You actually become really good friends with these people.
Not only are you entrepreneurial in your companies, you're kind of entrepreneurial in your programs and associations. I mean, talking about this network, both of you are founders of the Young Entrepreneurs Founders Organization, correct?
Correct.
And that is an organization that takes people and alumni who have graduated from Brigham Young University and connect them into this network of entrepreneurs that are in the trenches today, correct?
That's right. We saw a need to have a network of young, successful entrepreneurs that do business in accordance with those that are the ethics and the standards taught at BYU. And so we put together this group in association with the Center for Entrepreneurship, and it's been just a treat to be able to associate with this group. And of course, if there's any students or anyone that's involved, we'd like to talk to you and as we grow this group.
Yeah, great. So balance. So you're entrepreneurs, you're in the trenches, you're doing quite well, you've done a turnaround. I suppose you both have spouses and children, correct?
That's true.
We do.
How does that work out?
Oh, that's a good question. Wonderfully is the answer, is the short answer. But I think we're fortunate in that way. Right. Meaning, my family, they're entrepreneurs too, and in terms of the way, meaning my wife and children, their attitude, their approach, their support, their desire to create a company and to watch it grow.
So even the children get.
Yeah, actually a little bit. Mine are starting to get just a time. My oldest is 12, and so I do have some discussions with him about the business. Some of my kids still don't know where I work, but the older ones are getting the hang of it now. Yeah. So, but no, I do think that's a very critical component. Being an entrepreneur is not a solo effort. It's not like I've gone to work for someone else and collected my paycheck and come home, and it's not like that. It's a little bit different for the families, and that's a consideration that you have to.
And they
to
support
talk about.
Eric, same?
Well, my wife married an entrepreneur, you know, so I had a business when she married me, so she knew what she was getting into, and she is great. She's fabulous. The reality is your spouse sacrifices in the same ways that the entrepreneur sacrifices, and in most cases, I mean, you hear the darling stories that you know, where entrepreneurs are able to go and create, you know, incredible companies and sell them for billions of dollars within a year or two. That doesn't happen very often. No. It's a lot of work and a lot of stress, a fair amount of sweat and tears, if you will. And when I'm working on that, you know, she also has to stand by me during that time and sacrifice with me, and she's been great at that.
That's great. Great. Thank you so much for spending some time. We'd like to open this now up to the students here for questions and that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And, generally, they don't ask too hard of questions. So.
Oh, good.
So we'll,
John
we'll
gets all
open
the
it
hard
up.
ones.
Yeah.
I think, you know, among our culture, and especially at this school, there's a pretty high emphasis placed on higher education. But I know from my experience, I've met a lot more entrepreneurs that haven't done grad school than those that have. So I guess my question is, was it worth it to get the MBA? And if you were to go back, would you have done it again?
I think our answer is the same.
Yes.
Absolutely. For us, I agree. In the entrepreneurial industry, if you will, or you'll probably find folks that you know, started their businesses sooner than maybe we did. But that was a goal I had for quite a while in my life, and I wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see what it would be like, and it was even though I felt like I was prepared and had learned a lot about it and spent time on different campuses, and most of my colleagues that I'd worked with prior to business school were MBA graduates. It was better than what I anticipated. For me, it was a great decision.
It's great fun, and you know, to be able to collaborate with an environment that you know, is so passionate about business and business processes and all those things associated with that.
It's so talented.
Really expand. Well, for me, it expanded my vision, gave me more passion about business, helped me see where maybe I could go, and that critical network that we talked about, you know, a huge foundation comes from there. And when you go to a great business school or MBA program, there's great people in there that are going to be very successful in life, and those are the people that I can tap into and be a part of their network. And so it absolutely, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Wouldn't even think about it.
But you are right. We at BYU, mostly the undergraduates start most of the companies. I mean, we do have 1-800 Jonathan Coons and other MBAs, but typically it's an undergraduate starts companies. But they generally don't do turnaround companies, and that would be someone that has a broader knowledge and understanding of cost and financial data that can look at a company. So they're going to do things a little different, but I think that's a good point.
It's a good question. We get that a lot, actually.
Other questions? Yes.
Is the goal with you and the company that you're in, you've turned it around or are in the process of doing that. Once it's turned around, do you want to stay with it or sell it and do the same thing again, or?
I'd like John to answer that so I can see what he's doing. Make sure I'm not going to lose a partner.
No,
here.
sure. No, we our goal, it is turned around. It's hopefully quite a few years beyond that, we hope. It's just not quite to where we think we can take it, still continue to grow it at a rapid rate. I think there will become a time where maybe we've kind of tapped our resources in terms of what we can do, and then that's probably when we look to maybe harvest or to sell to a strategic buyer or who knows.
And not only what we can do, but even our interests, I would say.
Sure.
Because you know, there comes a time when your company turns a little less entrepreneurial and a little bit more corporate.
It can get too big.
Yeah.
At least for our liking.
And you know, we're entrepreneurs. And so I think ultimately, eventually, there'll be a harvest, and we'll be on to something else.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs do what entrepreneurs do.
Entrepreneurs do what they do. Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
Do you just completely focus on this business, or both of you, are you looking at other ventures that are available? Are you looking for other options, other directions you can go?
That's a good question as well. We've done both. We've done both. Because I think ideally we would like to be a part of a few different small companies. We've done that route. We have been a part of a few different small companies. We've been most successful when we focused on this business, though. There were a few things that happened in our business back when we were, sort of building a portfolio of small companies, if you will, that the opportunities at Brainstorm just became such that we needed to focus there because they were pretty exciting for us. So. Neither one of us we're not really IT guys or software guys. We're entrepreneurs, and we have people around us that are fantastic at that. But we feel like we're kind of entrepreneurs at heart. So I'm sure in the future that we'll probably get involved with some other things. But right now we're just trying to hold the reins of this one, and it's turned out to be a lot bigger project to tackle than maybe we anticipated at first. It keeps us quite busy.
And that's kind of like a lesson to be learned, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this idea of being a parallel entrepreneur, having parallel companies, issues, and I think you did that at one time, and you found out that you're always better to focus on what you are doing best, right?
There's probably two things to touch on that, and one is if you're going to be parallel and you're going to be doing several companies at the right time, you better have the A team in each of those.
Yeah.
Because that's critical. Someone's got to be there when you're not running and driving the business. The other thing, Gary, you had mentioned, when we talked about furniture and spending the resources at the right place. Well, money is one resource. Human capital, obviously, is another resource, and you want to make sure that you're spending your human capital resource at the right place. Where you're going to get the highest return on investment, and for us, Brainstorm was it, and so we really had to make a focus there and push through.
Good,
but it was fun to do a few other things. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's tempting.
Well,
it's always tempting.
It's always tempting because there's a lot of great deals out there always.
Yes.
and entrepreneurs are we like to be generalists in a lot of things.
You can't be an entrepreneur if you aren't tempted to look once in a while at other opportunities.
For sure.
But you always learn in the long run. Focus on what you have.
Yeah. It's a question.
Okay, other questions? Over here.
Can you go through a little bit more of an overview of the process of shopping for and purchasing a company, and just kind of what the motions are for that, and how maybe a few indicators on what a good company might look like?
Sure. Do you want me to start?
Let me just why don't you take the indicators, but the first thing I just want to say is, again, you want to tap back into that network that we've talked about. It's amazing how many transactions are available out there, how many deals are available. Just here at the university, there's a lot of great stuff coming out of the university, a lot of technology, a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs that want to grab something and
That's
run.
a little bit unique, too.
I would say it's unique and
you
really...
guys have an opportunity, unlike most students.
So, but yeah, John has some thoughts.
I don't know if I can remember all of the criteria, but we did create a list, actually, at one point as to what we were looking for in an acquisition target. Some of it was personal preference, some of it we just felt was kind of smart. But one was, if you're looking for a turnaround, which we were, you have to be able to identify what the problem is and feel fairly confident that you're right in terms of what the issue is, and also, fairly confident that you maybe have the answer. So we were looking for companies where we thought maybe management or personnel or just maybe there was some opportunity there to create some efficiencies in operations and things that plays to our strengths quite a bit better. Eric's background is primarily sales and marketing, and he's very good at that. I'm more on the product development side and a little bit more on maybe some strategy with some products. So for us, I'm looking at a company, is this a business where I can get in and learn about it quickly, because I don't know anything about it right now. Can I get in and learn quickly, and can I create something of value so that he can go sell it? And so we were looking, that was one criteria, for example. We also wanted a business where we weren't restricted. We could always go chase sales. We could go out and knock doors if we had to or whatever. So for us anyway, retail, for example, didn't really fit our mold, because you're kind of people have to walk through the door before you can really sell to them, and we wanted to be able to go, not be geographically constrained and be able to go sell to wherever it was we needed to sell, and have more kind of flexibility and mobility that way. You want to get into an industry that's large
industry,
so that there's an opportunity to play. In our case, our industry is large. It's also fragmented, meaning there's definitely some larger players, but there's no one that really just owns the market. It's up for grabs, and it's still, it's just very fragmented. So most of competition isn't actually our big challenge in our business. It's definitely there. We encounter it every day, but that's not one of the large challenges. So there is kind of a list of a few things where we were trying to make sure that the company fit that criteria.
And inventory, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, when they're looking at companies, don't want something with inventory that sits. Right?
Right. That would be part of it. And I'd kind of go back also to high margin, because you make mistakes if you have margin.
Especially in a turnaround.
And you'll
make
make mistakes, or you'll have something come out at you, call it a debt you were unfamiliar with, previous of acquisition or something. But high margins allows you to kind of get through that. Low fixed costs, so you're not investing tons of money into infrastructure and all these things. It allows you to kind of, do your thing. And if you make an error once in a while, that's okay. You can get through it. So I'd add those to maybe what John had said.
Okay, good questions. Other questions? Go ahead.
You talk about being passionate. When you refer to that, are you referring to that both of you are passionate about like computers, computer programs, or is it more of customer service and being an entrepreneur and that type of thing?
I think the answer could be either one. It could be both. You have to be passionate about something that applies to your business, that's of value to your customers. I'm not a technology person, so I'm not a gadget guy. I don't, there's a lot of people in our industry that are, and that's what drives their passion. I'm passionate about providing a good value to our customers, providing high quality service. I take it personally if we mess up or if we make a mistake, or I'm glad that we recovered with our customer in Scotland, but there was a good little while there where that was a drag because we have a lot of pride, personal pride, and just passion about we deliver what we tell our customers we're going to deliver. It's just also just kind of a fire and an energy, and there's good days and bad days, obviously, like in any job. And you have to be able to kind of, you're the source of fuel for the organization.
We've recruited a sales guy, for example, and they came out from a completely different field, but got into software training sales. It's not their passion, that actual software sales, but or software training, but what is their passion is sales. And they're passionate about doing the deal and progressing.
He's snapping his fingers because that's what that sales guy does.
I'm sorry, he does
Deals
that
are coming.
Deals are coming. So he's passionate about that. And whatever it is, you find your passion about your business, because again, if you don't have it, you can't expect anyone else to have it.
Yeah, good point. Other questions? Mm-hmm.
I just have a question about cutting costs. You talked a little bit about you found there were some inefficiencies and you wanted to cut costs and bootstrap a little bit. But how did you determine where to cut costs? How did this dollar lead to a dollar in sales kind of thing? How did you do that determination?
That's a good question, because I like to think that we make fairly educated decisions on that, and I think a high percentage of decisions we made were, but some of it's just a little bit of you don't know all the time.
But buying a desk.
But buying a desk doesn't generate a sell. Yeah. So some of them are pretty. There's revenue generating activities in an organization, and then there's non-revenue generating activities, and you have to have. Me and my team building a product isn't necessarily a direct revenue generating activity, although you obviously have to have a product to sell. So we just tried to funnel our money into more sales and marketing oriented. We're very much a sales and marketing driven company, even today. We always will be. That's where the action's at. That's when it gets fun.
And for us in a turnaround, that may mean initially putting our sights squarely on this particular line and letting some of these other lines, for example, maybe go by the wayside so that we have enough money to actually do really well here. Okay, now that we've done that well and we've been able to make some money, all right, now maybe we can invest in some of these other technology partners, for example, maybe a Corel or something like that, and we'll go out and win that business. But initially, we actually, we have a chart that we used when we acquired the company, and it nailed exactly what we needed to be doing with our resources right now, and that was pretty tight. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, we weren't doing a lot of other things. We knew exactly what we were going to be doing.
So today we train on dozens of applications. When we first got involved, we trained on one. We were a software training company that trained on one application. You won't find many of those today, and that worked for us in the near term. It would have. That's not a sustainable business model. But when you're in CPR mode, which is kind of what you are in when you're in the turnaround, you're just trying to find where the bleeding is, stop it, get the circulation going again. We just said, all right, this is what our company does. This is what this company does best. This is what they're known for, and we're just going to do this and try to do it over and over and over again and be the best in the world. And I think there's many things we do now, but for that particular thing we focused on, we're hands down the very best in the world at that product and the training.
And the market knows it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we'd like to thank Eric and John for coming out today and spending time with us, and hope it was enjoyable for you.
Yes, thank you.
Sure was for our group.
Appreciate it.
Just kind of summarize, I think that both of them, in starting this company, we can learn a number of things. One is leverage your smallness. When you're a small company, do things that large companies can't, like fly to Scotland to deliver. I mean, a great example of doing things with personal touch. Two, I think they really highlighted the idea of networking, and it's not about marketing per se. It's not about brochures and advertising budgets. Like you said, you had minimum, but it's really about networking, calling people getting into places where you have friends and people, and depending on friends. And experience counts, but it just doesn't have to be your own, right?
Right.
And I think the also is putting money into what you said, revenue generating activities. Don't put your money into assets that just don't deliver. I mean, new cell phones and new desks and new facilities are great, but they don't move you forward in a big way, right? Would you add anything else to that?
No, I think you nailed them.
Okay.
Yeah, those are a handful of really probably good nuggets that we've taken, from our experience base.
Well, thank you for sharing those with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
All right.